right, welcome back to the Underdog Podcast. Today we're doing more of an update. We don't have a behind the business. We don't have a behind the underdogs. We have a lot of things going on right now in our lives that are changing. So we're just going to break it down, debrief it. Obviously, a couple weekends ago, we had our first round of the NCAA tournament. And unfortunately, we lost. And that was the end. And to make a long story short, so I guess we'll start with you. Where are you at? I know obviously it's been a long year, just a long career, honestly, and a lot of ups and downs and everything like that. But you were fighting a lot of injuries this year, and obviously it's tricky to kind of catch a groove through the whole thing. So why don't you break down the season a little bit?
Yeah, it was kind of it was a tough one, especially getting hurt second shift into the season, especially with how well the preseason game went against USM. Obviously, we did well as a team, but like I felt great out there. I'm like, you know what, this is good. Like I feel like myself again, and I was so excited for the season. And then obviously to have the injury happen in the second shift to the regular season sucks. Just remember when it happened too, and you're almost in disbelief. It's the same thing the last time I did it in juniors too. You don't want to believe it, and you're like, no, it's good. Like it's just a little sore. And every minute that goes by, it just gets worse and worse. And I knew I was like, it's done. Like it's no good. And then I had Kate telling me that I don't think it's separated. I'm like, Kate, it's fucking separated.
Yeah.
And then it turns out to be even worse, which sucks. Like here I am, freaking, 7 months later? 6 months later, it's still not better.
That had you out for 12 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I came back after Christmas, and that was 9 weeks. It's been about, 12 weeks, something like that now. I don't even know. Time's just going by so quick. But, yeah, the season was tough. It was frustrating. If you were to ask me at the start of the year if this would be the end, I would have said no. I think I really wanted to play after. Leading into this season, the goal was to play some pro hockey. That was always my goal, always my dream. And I think with the way things went with Underdog, it made it a little different because I always wanted to go to Europe, but that's not really in the cards anymore. But ahead of this season, like I wanted to finish in the coast and play a few games, and that just was not in the cards come the end of the year. I think it was frustrating for a lot of reasons, the injury, and even when I was back, just the way things went. It made it difficult. It wasn't a lot of fun by the end. I think my passion really died for the game this year, if I'm being honest, for a number of reasons. Just the way it went. So that was tough. It's kind of funny. I was talking to Doc the other night, actually, with him getting back in the lineup with Buffalo, and he's actually doing really well. I don't know if you saw.
So he scored
the other day. Scored last night.
That's cool.
So he's got 3 points in 3 games with the Sabres. I think he had 4 and 25 with Ottawa, so it's going really well for him. So I'm pumped. Anyway, so we were talking about it, and he's like, "How are you feeling?" I was like, "I don't know. It was weird." And I told him, I think I was the only one who did not even shed a tear in the slightest out of the seniors. Wasn't even fazed by it. I don't know. I just sat there, and I told him that. I'm like, it was weird. I just sat in my stall, emotionless, and I think that was the sign when I knew it was time to be done. And it's tough. You give your whole life to this game, not just, the last number of years in particular, but really your whole life is spent chasing this goal and this dream, and then all of a sudden it just comes to an end. So it's kind of crazy. But I remember saying to him, it's kind of weird. Maybe I'll feel something later, and I know I'll miss it, but I was just kind of emotionless when it ended. Which is not really what I expected. I guess I didn't know what to expect, but to make a long story short, I think it's time to be done. I think there's bigger things that we have on the go, but I think it got to a point where I would love to keep playing, but it's I have this sense of I'm 24, I need to make money, I need to provide for myself. I need to get on with my life, but it's tough to say goodbye to something you've done for 20 years, 21 years, pretty much. So I don't know. I think next year I'll miss it.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
I mean, I wasn't expecting to have any emotion. Kind of like you. I've had my fair share of ups and downs throughout the years, but just like you, I mean, I wanted to play pro. I wanted to make it to the next level. And, if you ask me last year or my sophomore year when I first got to UNE, like that was the goal. That was 100% the goal, was to play after. And I think I definitely could have. But once again, it's like, I think underdogs helped make it a, um, what's the word I'm looking for?
I'd say it's helped me transition out of the
Yeah,
game.
it's helped ease the impact that it's had on me, because I remember, I mean, like you, like I stayed in my gear for, had to be close to an hour after the game, and I was really just like thinking back on what made the game so special to me. And honestly, it wasn't any of the recent years. It wasn't juniors. It was when I was young. It was when I was young, even just on the backyard rink with my dad and my grandfather. You know what I mean? Like little things like that is what really mattered. Because even that game 2 weekends ago, it was like I damn well knew that could have been the last game,
Yeah.
but I didn't treat it that way. You know what I mean? Like going into the game, it was, and it's hard to treat it that way because it's like you want to make it to the next round. You want to make it to that next weekend. And I didn't. I didn't enjoy the moment of playing in what now is my last competitive hockey game. You know what I mean? So it was like, I don't know, that was difficult to let go of. I think after the game, when it set in that was it. That was the last game I'd play. I wish I enjoyed the environment more in the heat of the moment. But really it was like I got to stop this next shot, the one after that. You know what I mean? So it was tough to kind of appreciate it for what it was. But I think in overall, where it's at, I think, like you said, there's better things that are going on now, and there's a better opportunity at hand. And I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you're doing, but it's a give and take. Like, what are you going to put more effort in, and what are you going to take out to be able to put the effort in that you want to, and the thing that might give you the biggest opportunity, at hand. So that was, for me, what I just came to terms with was like, it's time to go all in. I've been waiting to go all in on something for a long time. I mean, it's been since juniors that I've been able to do that, where I remember, with the generals, you spend the whole day at the rink, doing off ice stuff, on ice stuff, off ice stuff after training, doing stick work, getting extra ice time. Like, there's something about being all in on something and just getting pulled in so many different directions with hockey, the business, school, personal life. It's a lot of stretching.
Mm.
And it's like you kind of lose, it's like an aura almost, where when you're all in on something and you're all in on something, nobody else is doing what you're doing, whereas you're getting pulled in every different direction. It's like, how can you be the best getting pulled in every different direction? It's not possible.
Yeah. And I think that it kind of became clear more than ever this spring, dealing with some of the stuff that we had going on with the business and this launch and production. I think even that last week where we're like, it was our last practice, wasn't it? Last practice before. And we're like taking a call, and then it's like, bring the computer into the room, get half dressed, answer more emails, make a phone call with half your gear on. And it's like, what are we doing? Like, we can't be doing this.
Yeah.
It was time to be done. Which it's tough. And I think it just makes you appreciate what the game did. I mean, it brought us together. We didn't, hockey brought
we wouldn't be in here right now.
Brought us together, brought, me to this country, really. And Underdog is what, you and Underdog is what brought me to UNE in the first place. But look at all the friendships I have, like Doc from the Edge days to Gorms at IU, like guys you just keep in touch with. And like, that's really what I appreciate the game for now.
Yeah.
And just everything my parents did for me growing up, like making Edge happen everything. I wouldn't have played without them, you know?
Yeah, seriously.
And that's what you appreciate.
Yeah.
So that's tough. But
especially when you come from, hockey's such an expensive sport that when you come from a middle class family, like the older you get, the more you realize how much they sacrificed to make it happen. I mean, hell, my dad was working in the union for, when I was playing hockey when I was younger. And the whole reason why he started his own business was so he could take me on trips for tournaments on the weekends, and he could have more money and flexibility to work around my hockey schedule.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And like looking back on that now, I'm like, holy shit. Like you don't realize that because they're not going to tell you, what they're doing it for, or, but you know, when you're older, you realize it. And I've had plenty of conversations with them about that. And it also like makes me think about like how I would want to be when I'm older. You know what I mean? And I have my own kids. Like those are the sacrifices that you got to be willing to make at the end of the day. Because once again, like, yeah, they make the sacrifices for hockey, but it's also they made that sacrifice so we could be here right now. Like you said, we wouldn't have Underdog if it wasn't for hockey. That's where the whole thing stemmed from in the first place.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's tough. I'm kind of getting choked up thinking about it, but there was one night, it was after the Wentworth game when I kind of tweaked my other shoulder. I remember calling my dad, and I just broke down on the phone. Like, I haven't done that in a long time, and like now I'm getting choked up here, and I didn't even shed a tear after the fucking hockey game. I remember calling him and just like breaking down, and like you're just wondering why all this happens, why injuries, why things go the way they do, and I remember just thinking how thankful I was for them and grateful, appreciative of everything they've done over the years. You don't really understand until you're in their shoes someday, or it's over. Like that's when you really realize what they've done for you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. And it's I honestly think I feel more sad for my parents than for myself. Because like I know how much they put in to make it all happen, and I wanted nothing more than when I'm younger. I wanted all I wanted to do was play in the NHL and be able to give back to them, buy them a house and everything like that, which is still the goal now. But I wanted to do it through hockey. Like that was always my goal. So
Yeah.
even when I think that was the whole reason why I was so disappointed when I went D3 in the first place was that I knew that dream was probably over. In all reality, I mean, everybody can always say it. If anybody's going to say it, it's me, that anything's possible and that, you can make it happen. But in realistic terms, it's like, okay, you go D3, you might have a chance to go play overseas or in, some minor league somewhere, So yeah, for me, that was always difficult because all I wanted to do was make them proud. That's literally been my main driver of everything I do. Because like we talk about all the time, hell, I could live in a shed and freaking ride my bike to work every day. I wouldn't care, you know.
I would too, as long as I don't get pulled over again.
That's crazy. Did we talk about that on the podcast?
No.
Oh god, you got to share the story real quick.
So the Tahoe was getting some work done. He was in the shop. I don't even remember what he was in for that time. A transfer case. Yeah, dropped it off there. Took a bike from one of the boys' houses from their landlord. Biked home that night, and then it ended up being in there all week. So I biked to school the one day, and I was biking home, and I got pulled over by the cop.
It was like 11 o'clock at night, right?
Yeah.
You had some
project.
Yeah.
And I was coming back. Yeah, it was late. And I was on the phone, too. I had my AirPods in. I'm like, cops camped out in the usual Jimmy's parking lot, like classic. Watch out, I'm going to rip by, and he's going to pull me over for speeding. I go by, and then sure enough, his fucking lights come on. He pulls me over for riding on the wrong side of the road and not having lights on my bike.
Oh,
but
my God. So funny.
I'd still do it.
But honestly, those are like all the stories that you just remember, like it's all those little things. Like it's not just like something like that, but even in business, we don't remember the big wins. It's always like those trips that we had that were absolute chaos. Same thing with hockey. You remember the little things, like stuff that happens in the locker room or on a road trip or something like that.
100%.
So, yeah,
that's funny. And I was gonna say too, like that was the same thing. It was always about, like, you want to make them proud, your parents proud. And the joke growing up was always that my mom's always wanted a Cadillac Escalade. It's always been, so the joke since I was probably 5 or 6 years old was, when I get my signing bonus, Mom, I'm going to buy you a Cadillac. Like, that was always the joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She'll have a caddy soon.
I hope so.
Just to bring it back to what we were talking about, like, you learn so much from putting that much into something, whether it's work ethic, perseverance. Yeah. Everything I've ever had in my life has come from hockey. Maybe it's not specifically on the ice, but the preparation aspect of it, the nights where you're training, there's nobody else around. Like, those are the times that I remember, because it's ingrained in my mind of, like, I was putting in the work when clearly nobody else was, and I think that's absolutely transferred into the business. I mean, how many times where, and it's so cliche, but it's true, is you're a 24-hour athlete, you're a 24-hour entrepreneur. Like, we've taken calls in the middle of the freaking night or early in the morning or whatever it is, traveling, like you're working through the night. We've had a few of those, but you learn that from sports and growing up in that environment. It's just such a competitive environment. And what's more correlative than being an entrepreneur? Like, you're in competition mode 24/7.
Yep.
Always trying to make improvements and find solutions to problems, because there's so many of them. But anyways, that's kind of where we're at right now. So the season ended a couple weeks ago, and I'm still trying to, like, get a groove on things, but we joined Foley's Fitness. We got a membership over there, sick gym. Shout out to Joe Doherty. He's one of our investors, and he supplied us with a great gym as well. So we're doing that. Now we're really focusing on getting big.
Yeah, I was going to say, if anything, the high note or the positive note takeaway is, like, I'm excited to focus on, like, training. And I say that in the sense that, like, well, weren't you training before? Yes, but, training for hockey, especially in season, totally different. Yeah. Like, being able to train to really get bigger and stronger and not have to worry about skating and, being in game shape, conditioning and cardiovascular wise, but just be able to lift weights for a while. I'm excited. Yeah, I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be good. And I think the other thing too is, like, now we'll be graduating.
50 days.
That's crazy.
It's like 53 days or something.
Month and a half or so. Yeah, that's wild. And then it's all in. And there's just so much opportunity, so much more opportunity that comes with that, where we've had to turn down other opportunities because we're in school, we have class, hockey, all those sorts of things. So now the door's wide open for us to, whether it's go to events or, we're going out to Oregon in a couple weeks, which we'll be debriefing on a future episode, but like little things like that, it's going to be good. And I think now we just have so much more versatility to get the job done. And we've made it this far of having this foot over here, this foot over there, and in that door. So now that we're, we have a focus, we have goals in place for this year, and I think we're going to exceed every expectation that we have for ourselves, for this coming year. But at the same time, it's like finding a new physical passion and purpose, and working out is great and everything like that, but even just like setting goals of like where you want to be, and this is just in the interim while we're really growing and developing the business. I mean, I'm going to be competing in something someday. Like, competition definitely isn't over in that regard, just because I feel like I have so much more to give. I know you think the same thing, but at least now I feel like a monkey is off my back, in the sense of, before it's like burning the wick from every single end and it's just keeping your head above water. But now, we can work out whenever we want. We can, squeeze in a workout at this time, as opposed to a set schedule, like we're at the rink from, 1 to 6 or 1 to 7 or whatever it is. So that'll be good.
Yeah. No, I think, like you said, the competition side of it, piece of it isn't going to go away. but now we're kind of on our own schedule, which is nice. We're not tied down to the usual. It's like, we miss a big chunk of the business day too when, we are essentially only available half the day, with all our hockey and, our training kind of being in the afternoon, evening type of thing. So that'll be good. And I feel like kind of the monkey off the back. Like that's what I said to my parents too when we finished, was that I wasn't sad. Like I was relieved. I was like, it's time to be done. Like I remember when they scored that empty netter, I was sitting on the bench and I watched Ike dive and the kid keep going. I'm like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like it's over, And it wasn't like I wasn't crushed. It was like a sense of relief.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely weird. I mean, I still don't think I've really processed it.
Yeah.
Honestly. No. Which is interesting. I think that, with time it'll all make sense too. Like that's the other thing. Time fixes most things. I'm not gonna say all things because it doesn't, but I think where a lot of, and I can't even speak from experience because we're just here now, but I think where a lot of athletes run into trouble when their playing career ends is not finding something else to go all in on, which we already talked about. Like for us, it's Underdog and still training and everything like that. But
even just to keep them busy, like they need something. You need something to do.
Yeah,
that's one thing I've wondered too. Is like you'll see, like even Tom Brady or Wayne Gretzky, for example. Like they have more money than they know what to do with. They don't need to work, but you see them get involved in television or some sort of commentary. And it's because it's like, one, they still love the game. And two, it keeps them like involved in something, tied to something, gives them purpose. Like you need to find a purpose. You need to have a why. And that's something that's never going to change. And I think, we're seeing that firsthand with hockey coming to an end. Like hockey's been my why since I was 5. What are you?
Yeah.
A hockey player, And I think a lot of them struggle with that identity shift, and you need to find or alter your why. Yeah. That's what keeps you going.
100%. And I've seen it from two perspectives now. I've had, obviously now with hockey coming to a close, I have Underdog, but my freshman year of college, Underdog was, it was around, but it wasn't as promising or opportunistic of where it could go. So when I left the team my freshman year, I was devastated. Like, just hockey's been my identity since I was a kid, and I've never had like something else. Like that's just been what I've built my life around. And when hockey's going good, I feel like I'm a good person. I feel like I've, I'm accomplished. I have accolades and all these things. And then when it's going poorly, it hits me harder because that's all I had to stand on. I was never like a stellar student in school. I mean, I went to a great prep school in Massachusetts, but I didn't involve myself. I didn't focus on studying or anything like that. It was hockey. Thursday mornings, I'd go to school at 5 a.m. to do video with my goalie coach. Shout out Cam Duminy. He's the man. And then we'd skate for like 2 hours. And I'd miss my first class almost every week on Thursdays. Things like that. Like I didn't give a shit because I knew that if I devoted myself to something, I'd get something in return because other people weren't skipping their class, at least to my knowledge, or I at least told myself that, and that's a big piece to it. But then, now it's like, having Underdog, it relieves, those feelings of despair, basically, so, but yeah, so we'll see. Hopefully, a year from now, we'll do a podcast episode and be like 240 pounds, lean muscle. And we're talking about, all our successes. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. But yeah, anything else you wanted to talk about?
Does it ever bother you? Does it bother you that it didn't work out? Does it bother you that you look back and you look at how much work you put in and you're like, why didn't it? Like, I don't know if that'll ever not bother me. Like, I look at some kids that make it levels well beyond my capabilities, and it's like, how the fuck did you end up there?
Yeah, no.
Knowing what you put in.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't it?
I mean, it absolutely bothers me. I just try to... I've always leaned on the side of everything happens for a reason. That's always been my go-to, because I think I would be in a lot worse place if I knew I didn't put in the work. I didn't put in the time. I know I gave my everything, for it, and I can consciously say that, without. I think the what if is the big piece. Like, what if I spent more time at this point in time, or what if I made this decision instead of that decision? Like, I don't think it's really that. I think that's why I can lean on everything happens for a reason, because
you gave it all.
I gave it my all. At least to what I think would be my all, which I think most people would agree who I've grown up with, through, whether it's coaches, teammates, like, it's the same thing with you, but like, we're always the hardest workers on every team that we're a part of. So, but yeah, no, I mean, it does bother me. But yeah, I mean, it eventually, like, if you just keep showing up in life in general, I feel like it has to work out. And I think that's why things are working out for us now, is because this was the path we're supposed to be on.
I like to think of it like that.
Yeah.
And I want to believe that too.
Yeah.
That, like, everything that I put into hockey was shaping up for this to be successful. Like, the work put in that, I'm getting the result from that work now in Underdog.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's true just with anything, right? Like, even when you're shaping the body, like when you first start working out, when you're younger, like, you don't see it the next day after your first workout. It's like what you're putting in today is going to be your end result in 2 months, what you look like, So I think that's really how it works. And obviously on a larger scale, like with hockey, like, that's a lifelong commitment, and all those years of putting in work just structures who you are as a person. Like, not just how you appear, but your internal moral code, So, but yeah, it definitely probably bothers you too.
Yeah.
I just try not to think about it,
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll leave it at that. Yeah, so we got a lot of things in the works right now. I'm hoping we can get more in-person podcasts. I think it'd be cool if we like had people actually come here. It's just tough because we're in Maine and there's not many people around.
It's not totally accessible either. Like,
yeah.
Portland isn't, okay, yes, it's close for us, but it's not the most, like, accessible airport.
Right.
Like, they got to fly into Boston and then up to Portland.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. But we're going to work on getting some more exciting content for you guys. We will have more exciting content for you guys coming up here soon, which we're super stoked about. And, you guys can follow along on our social media platforms. Instagram is obviously where most of our content goes down. So follow us on there at @underdog_brand. The podcast is available on all streaming platforms, audio and videos on YouTube. So feel free to check that out as well. We appreciate you guys for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.